In this case, we understand that tolerating some people is useless and sometimes dangerous. Hello friends, today I came with another real story. Celeste is a girl from Katana. He was born in this area in 1996. His father's name was Tony and his mother's name was Angie. He had a half-brother and a brother younger than himself. It was not that they were far from each other or did not understand each other and were not close to each other. By the way, they had quite intimate relationships. Even his half-brother was very good with them. After years when his parents separated from each other, the good and continuing relationship and his parents trying to separate them did not have a deep impact on the children. We can say that their family relationships were very important to them. To be close to their children, to talk to them, to understand them despite all their differences, to have a healthy life and a happy, excited girl full of energy. He was laughing from the bottom of his heart. Very social and hard-working, he gave all his strength to his work. During his teenage years, his family decided to go to Australia and live there, and a large part of his personality was formed in the Australian society. And because he had a social nature, this relocation did not affect him severely. It's not like he wants to guard against the new environment. He accepts it very easily and mixes with others. In Australia, where he continued his studies, he was able to be the leader of the children, plan them and manage things in the same high school period. After his high school days, he chose criminology and psychology. In 2015, he entered the university and began his studies in this field. At the same time, he started working and became responsible for the call center in Serco. The team becomes the leader of this group. He was young, and it was not expected that he would want to be promoted so quickly. But the company officials, who see that the quality of his work is really high, are trying to give him a better position. In the year 2019, when he was working in the call center department, he met a man named Louis Seco. This man had just joined the group and started his work at that time. He had not been working for more than a few months when Louis was dismissed from his job due to the inadequacy of the many mistakes he made in his work. The few months that Louis worked in that department was exactly the same period of time when Celeste was promoted and became a team leader from an ordinary employee. Having a custom in their company, when someone wants to leave the company, the manager of that department comes to escort him to the exit door and finally say good luck to him and say goodbye. Celeste does the same thing and says goodbye to all the children when Louis settles the account and was about to leave the company. It was Celeste who accompanied him to the exit and talked to him warmly. He tells her that I wish you success wherever you are and the best things happen to you, and I'm happy to see you. But no one thought that this simple chase would cause a big problem for Celeste. 2 months before Louis' expulsion, Celeste's parents separated, and Celeste lived with her mother, Angie. But she had never talked about this boy with her mother, until one day she left the company, and something happened to Celeste, who went to meet her mother Angie. He told his mother that I had a colleague named Louis. The quality of his work was very low recently, and that's why we settled it today, and I went to see him off and shake his hand and wish him success. But when I shook hands with him, he pulled my hand towards himself and kissed my face. What he was saying was that I had a bad feeling about why he did this without my permission, and I didn't like his work at all. His mother makes the story seem very normal and tells him that he must have had a crush on you, or he liked you and didn't want to tell you. It's not very important. Don't worry about it. Whatever happened is in the past, because if he really loved you, he would have told you. Celeste also says that I was too sensitive. It's not important, whatever it is. She went on with her own life. and he decides not to think about it anymore. But at the end of that week, Celeste realizes that it was not as simple as she thought, and goes to tell her mother that Louis is back. He is sending her messages on iMessage. Celeste reads Louis' messages to her mother, one by one. What long messages Louis had written to him. Since the day you gave me a hand, a strange feeling has formed in me, and since I left, I have not forgotten you. I feel that I love you very much. I felt that you have become a new reason for my life. I no longer have the former focus to work. I'm thinking about you all the time, as if I have no purpose in life other than you. But the thing is that these messages kept going forward, and Celeste answered them from time to time. Gradually, these messages take on a sexual flavor, and the love and interest that Louis showed her no longer comes from his heart. It comes from his sexual feelings. It was very strange for Celeste, because if they have seen each other for 6 months, that too at work. That's the place where they don't talk to each other at all, to find out that they have an understanding with each other, or to find out that they are doing well with each other. They only saw each other from a distance, and this was not a logical reason for Louis to express his interests in this way. We need to know Louis here. In 1984, Louis was born in Iraq, where both his parents were Christians. This was exactly during the period when Saddam was ruling in Iraq. During the period of Saddam's rule and the Ba'ath government, there was no good view of Christians in Iraq, and they persecuted them and did something to force them to emigrate. The same thing happens to Louis' family. They are so harassed that they flee to Turkey and apply for an Australian visa from there, which is accepted, and they continue their lives in Australia. The boy was lonely and withdrawn. He didn't like to go out. He didn't have any friends, and he preferred to stay in his room and avoid communicating with others. In the year 2019, when we are talking about him, this man is 35 years old, which is what he said himself. Until that year, he was still looking for work, but he could not find a permanent job or even find love. Even though he was 35 years old, he had not had any love before Celeste. From the very beginning, Celeste behaves very normally towards the expression of Louis' feelings and tells him that thank you for the feelings you have towards me. Thank you for your interest, but I have no feelings for you, and you are much older than me, and I don't think that a serious relationship should exist. So it is better to end this story here. But this is not something that Louis wants to ignore easily. He starts sending more and more messages. Long messages full of expressing feelings, even sexual feelings towards Celeste. When Celeste sees the situation like this, she prefers to block him as soon as possible. She blocks Louis' account. After 1 or 2 hours, Louis comes back with another account, and he messages her. Over the next few months, this happens again and again. Celeste blocks, and she comes with a new account. These messages continued for months. In the beginning, he used to tell her that you are a kind person, how charming, how beautiful. But gradually they become sexual and the sentences change. He tells her that if my body was yours tonight, what would you do with it? The details of the text of his sexual messages have not been released to the public, and very briefly state what kind of messages he was sending. But their way of expression was such that it tormented a person. Celeste tries to reject him again, this time stronger and with more serious messages. This dry treatment and his serious message make Louis nervous and tell him what you have done to yourself. You are no different from other women. I will prove to you and everyone else how important I am. Celeste received these messages continuously for 6 months, and the harassment continued every day until this girl decided to go to the police station and report the harassment. He was officially chasing Celeste. Celeste goes to the police station with her mother and tells them the story. He shows them the messages Louis sent to him, but what the police tell him was nothing but indifference. He tells him, "Look, nothing special happened. He didn't say anything criminal to you that we want to follow up. The virtual space is social media, and something could happen. And these disturbances are practically normal." He tells him that if you want these disturbances to stop happening to you, it is better to close Instagram. They don't file even a simple case for him. They don't even take a note of his complaint to write that this person entered the police department and filed a similar complaint against someone with such a name. It was a completely trivial matter for them. They come out of the police station very disappointed that the police can't do anything for them, or don't want to do anything. What happens after that for a while is that Celeste sees Louis' car everywhere, near the workplace, near the club that he goes to, and this is what worries Celeste and her mother, that he knows where this girl works, and is the only hope, which is to have not find Celeste's place of residence. After a while, he was able to find their place of residence to some extent. Not that he knows exactly where the house is, but he has noticed that Celeste used to enter this neighborhood. He was constantly following her, where she was going, where she was coming, what she was doing. 6 months have passed again. That is, a year has passed since the beginning of this incident. And when her mother Angie sees her daughter's stress, she again suggests that we go to the police and try our best. Maybe this time it will work. This time the story was different. The police told them that you had come here before. Have you filed a complaint before? They say, yes, we complained, but no one has done anything for us, and it is not important to say anything. But this time the officer said, why, let me file a case for you and follow up on the matter myself. He listens to their conversations, checks the messages sent to him, gets Louis' details, and calls Louis and orders him to come to the police station. They file a case against him and send him to the court. They give him an undertaking letter. He had to sign this undertaking that he is no longer allowed to be harassed in the virtual space, in the real world. The good thing that happens after this undertaking is that until there was no news from Louis for about a month, and Celeste was living in complete peace. But the problem was that Angie was not at ease, and felt that a piece of paper could not stop Louis and be a barrier to all the disturbances he had. In August 2020, he sent a long message on Instagram to Celeste. He wrote to her that please go and withdraw your complaint so that this agreement can be cancelled and you and I can get on with our lives very easily. But the problem here is that by sending the same message to Celeste, he had violated the commitment letter he had signed. That is, he broke the law. Seeing the messages, Celeste goes to the police station the same day and files a complaint again. Louis is arrested again, but his arrest was not to the extent that he wanted to go to prison. It was to the extent that he would be released again the same day. But the problem here is that on the day he is released, he goes to the first store he sees and buys a hammer and a knife. But it was not like he wanted to do anything or react quickly after buying these two weapons. There was no news from Louis for 3 months. No messages had been exchanged, and this was very pleasant for Celeste. It's like Louis is really careless and let go of everything. He was relieved, and recently had a close relationship with a boy who worked at his workplace, and being closer together. This boy's name was Chris. They were the same age. They liked each other. They loved each other. and he was happy that he was freed from these anxieties and could think about Chris more and be with him. On November 14th, 2020, Celeste and Chris go out together again. They became more intimate with each other, being happy to be together and taking a photo together on the same day. The next day, Celeste decides to post this photo in her virtual space. She wanted to post this photo as the first photo she had with her boyfriend, and she actually publishes it and tells everyone that I am in a relationship now. But what he didn't know or wasn't aware of was that Louis would probably see this picture too, that there is a possibility of its return. It is true that from the point of view of Celeste's family and herself, Louis is gone and has nothing to do with her and her life anymore. But during these 3 months, Louis has been following Celeste's page, following her on the street, and following her completely. And during this process, he finds the exact place of this girl's life. He even finds out which window is in Celeste's room. How can he enter that room? These 3 months have been a great opportunity for him to focus on how to do it. On November 16, 2020, Celeste was watching a movie with her mother. After the movie ends, Celeste goes to her room and gets ready to sleep. His mother Angie comes to the room and they have fun together. He tells his mother about what happened to him during these 1 or 2 days, about how he is doing well with Chris. They talk and say good night. Angie goes to her room to sleep. At 4 in the morning, the neighbor's CCTV cameras record the image of Louis standing at the door of the house. The window of Celeste's room is very low. She comes to the window with the same hammer and knife. In one moment, she breaks the glass with the hammer and enters the room. Celeste's mother wakes up from the sound of breaking glass and screaming and noise that happened. And he quickly reaches his daughter's room and opens the door. When the door opens, the floor is full of broken glass, and his sweet daughter is covered in blood. There was so much glass on the floor that when he hugs Celeste, he has to take her out. The only thing he does is to hold her in his arms until he passes over the broken glass and runs out of the room. Celeste's whole body was covered in blood. The scars on his body, hands, and face show that he fought for his life, but was unsuccessful. He tried to defend himself and confront the person who attacked him, but unfortunately, he was stabbed 23 times, and one of the stab wounds hit his heart. Unfortunately, this causes his death, and Celeste loses her life. This happened in 2 minutes and 39 seconds. That is, from the time Louis breaks the glass, enters, stabs 23 times, and leaves, it takes 2 minutes and 39 seconds. After getting out of the window again, Louis gets into the car and goes straight to the police station with the same bloody head and the same bloody knife. He introduces himself to the police and tells them that I killed him. I killed that girl, and it's all your fault. Even if he didn't go to reveal himself, the neighbor's CCTV cameras had recorded his image. At 10:10 p.m., he leaves the house in that condition, gets into the car, and drives away. However, by being in the police station with that good-looking face and with the crime scene, he makes the job much easier for the police. On November 16th, what happens to Celeste is titled 40. The 5th woman who has been assaulted by a man is registered in Melbourne. When they go to Louis' house and take his laptop to extract his information, they find 2 photos in this system. A photo related to Celeste and Chris. Another photo is related to the same coffee shop where these 2 people went that day. When they check his phone, they realize that he had this girl in different ways and was checking with different software. He chases her and realizes where she is going, where she is coming from, what she is doing. who she is chatting with. Everything was clear that she was following this girl completely, and there was no need to prove anything. Even though his defense team tried hard to say that this person was crazy and had a mental problem that he went after a girl like that, he is not in a good mental state to give him a heavy sentence. But Louis is clever and does something that will solve this case in 2 years instead of 2 months and mislead the court. The claim he made was that he told them that when I entered the house, I only stabbed him twice, which was not deep at all. I don't know who did the rest of the stab wounds. How can I stab so many people in 2 minutes and enter the house and leave again? This same claim of Louis makes them have to repeat the same test several times. Different people recreate the scene. How can they break the glass in 2 minutes and 39 seconds, enter the room through the window, and 23 until they stab and leave after that? They wanted to see how many hits can be made in these 2 minutes. The same thing causes the court to be delayed a lot. Dr. Jill, who was present in this case, was persistent and talked to Louis, saying that Louis was a very narcissistic person. Basically, he was a self-centered person. The importance he had for himself was higher than all other people, even Johnson. When they say that you had made a commitment, you were not allowed to send a message to Celeste. Why did you bother her again? Does that mean you really loved her that much? He tells them that no, she was not so beautiful that I would say, wow, I was in love with her. It had been a while since he had become fat and out of shape. That is, even after killing this girl, after all the messages he had sent, he was still not ready to stop being a narcissist and tried to pull Celeste down and lift himself up. He said that she should be very happy that I was friends with him, and he said that something that made me very nervous was when I saw the photo of the two of them on this Instagram. Chris was laughing in the camera and I felt that he was smiling as if he was mocking me. Because of these talks, the defense team told the court that he is in a state of insanity. He has an imaginary friend. They call him Isha. This imaginary friend tells him what to do, and he has no will and strength of his own. There is no doubt that he had mental problems and was not a normal person. But these psychological problems are not the reason for murder. It is his mental and psychological problems that made him go and kill someone. His last trial will be held in 2024, and he will be sentenced at the age of 39. He will be sentenced to 36 years in prison. Finally, 36 years. That is, after 30 years, he can apply for parole. This means that the court was still not 100% convinced that Louis really stabbed 23 times or hit the main blow to his heart, because if they knew that he was really a murderer and were sure, why should they give such a sentence? This is something that shocks Celeste's family very much. It makes them very angry, and they say that this is really the killer of our daughter. Why should you give him such a sentence? Why should you let him be released from prison even after 30 years? This is a dangerous and true killer who may be 70 years old when he comes out, but he can still do it. It is dangerous in the society, and this is not something that our daughter has the right to do. The claim made by the court told them that we don't know to say that this murder was predetermined and planned in advance. He might have been hit by a sudden madness, and he did it at the moment without realizing it. But we know that he bought the hammer and knife with the previous context. When this girl complains about him, then he goes and buys these two cold weapons. So it means that he had a plan for murder and spent 3 months trying to find this girl's house. How is it not predetermined? But Celeste's family does not give up and do not despair. and insisting that a law be passed for people who stalk others. This action causes stress and insecurity for the person who takes away their freedom. They have no right to take away the freedom of others, even in cyberspace, and make them feel insecure. The law existed from the beginning. Maybe Celeste was alive now. A 24-year-old girl who had many hopes and dreams, could experience many things, see different places in the world. She left this world very soon, and poor Chris, who had fallen in love with this new girl in the middle, and maybe being very happy together, was a heavy event for him, and he kept the memory of Celeste alive for a long time, and was sad about her absence. Chris described Celeste. All the days when he received messages from this person and how bad he was. Every day he was stressed, worried, and how much he was suffering. But he couldn't do anything. And that day when we went together, I felt that it was a happy day. I didn't see that stress and worry in his face, and it's really hard to understand that just because of showing attention once, so many things would happen in a row, and such a disaster would happen to one person. It doesn't make sense at all, because these two didn't know each other, and they don't know anything about each other to love or hate each other. Thank you for being with us today and listening to this case. I love you. You are my friends. Goodbye.